right, Eric. So what's coming to us today is from a fan who said, "Hey, can you react to this?" So I said, "Sure, I'll check it out." So we're in Arizona again. Allegedly, two officers. Now, the way the story is being told is that two officers saw a man jump into the lake, and he started drowning, and they laughed at him and let him die. And it was all caught on body camera. So that was what was coming out. So now the body cam footage is released. These officers were put on administrative leave. They weren't fired. They were put on administrative leave for what happened. So without more details, I was kind of like, I got to see what happened, right? Because I don't know if the officers are justified. And that's just not enough, right? I'm not going to condemn officers for something I don't really know what happened. That just doesn't seem like the story. So here's the body camera footage, and I used a left-leaning source because you know how they like to twist things. So I use a left-leaning source because I know they're going to put the cops in the worst possible light. Okay. But let's see if we agree with this conclusion.
Okay. 3 Arizona officers were put on paid administrative leave after allegedly refusing to save a drowning man. At one point, one of the officers was recorded telling the man, "I'm not jumping in after you." According to a statement by the city of Tempe, Arizona, 34-year-old Sean Pickens, who was experiencing homelessness. Is that like a disease? It just comes upon you. You're just experiencing. How about you're just homeless? Or you're not homeless? I mean, it's like you have a home or you don't have a home. It's not like a condition or something that you get. He's experiencing homelessness. So am I experiencing?
I would be laughing at the homeless, but it's just funny to
you're
experiencing a home. You're experiencing being not being homeless. He's experiencing homelessness.
Or I have a home, and I'm not trying to insult people who are homeless. I'm just like, that's a kind of a ludicrous statement.
Ugh, I don't know. I just don't understand it. But I don't understand this. They have the body cam, so why they're spinning it before they show us the body cam? So they've told us this is what happened to the officers. This is what they didn't do. They essentially let this guy die. They refused to help him, and then they give you the picture of the guy, which is this, right? Holding a dog, smiling.
Yeah,
it's the best picture, right?
Yeah,
and he's experiencing. So now this guy's like a straight victim. So let's see what happened. So hopefully they'll show the body cam of what happened. That this loving, beautiful man.
I'm sure it's a great guy.
Was drowned by the cops. I just don't know. Let's see.
Drowned in the waters near the Elmore pedestrian bridge on May 28th. Police body cam footage was released from the incident on June 6th. Shows officers refusing to help Pickens when he began struggling to swim.
So look at the body cam footage.
Sorry.
What are you doing, my friend? Huh?
All right, so it seems like the cops got there. They're like, "What are you doing, my friend?" And he runs down to the water.
No, it kind of scoots down. It doesn't. I don't see a confrontation here at all. It's kind of the voice, in my opinion, sounds sort of confused. Like, "What you doing, man?
Yeah.
Why are you there?" Didn't sound unkind.
What are you doing?
I gotta go for a swim. I'm free to go, right? I can't swim in the lake, man. I'm free to go, right?
You're not allowed to swim in the lake.
Now you see, so they go, they're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm going for a swim." They're like, "You can't swim in the lake, come back." He jumps in the lake. Now, two things. These cops, they don't train you to be lifeguards, right?
How do you know they can swim? What city are they in?
It's in Arizona, somewhere in Arizona.
Tempe. Not known. Phoenix is not known for all of its waterworks.
Yeah, but
I mean, if they're cops, they're not. We're not talking about Coast Guard here.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah. So
that's what I'm saying.
They never taught us Baywatch, right? So you're not jumping into water trying to because you don't know. You're not qualified to do that. So he's in there,
right?
And like you said, you don't even know if these cops know how to swim. So he's in there.
And by the way, they discouraged it. They did not say they didn't challenge it. They didn't say, "Go ahead, I dare you." They said, "You can't do that. Don't do that."
So right now, I still don't see why the officers were anything happened to them, but we'll see.
The transcript was released with the body cam footage revealed what was said around the moment of Pickings drowning. All right, inaudible.
So what's your plan right now?
I'm going to drown. I'm going to drown.
No, you're not.
Inaudible.
At least go to the pylon and hold on.
I'm drowning. Inaudible.
Come back over to the pylon.
I can't. Inaudible.
Okay, I'm not jumping in after you.
Inaudible. Please help me. Please, please, please.
I don't think they can. Inaudible. And it says, I think it says pedestrian.
I can't touch. Oh God, please help me. Help me.
Now, reading through that conversation, it seems like the cops are kind of confused on what to do to me. What do you think?
I don't see anything there. I'm trying to put myself in the scenario. I understand, obviously, somebody panicking, drowning, and you were talking about lifeguard training. Well, one of the lifeguard things is they like to knock people out because a drowning person will drown the lifeguard.
Yeah, flail. Yeah,
it's a very scary thing. And they are giving guidance. I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable. The body shot we saw is up, quite a ways up. So he can't just go jump right down there. The other one is on that bridge there. And could he fit through that grating or whatever? It actually looked almost like bars. Was it a bicycle cop there? I don't know if those bars are preventing people from jumping off. Like if he could even get through it. So I'm just saying it doesn't look like the easiest task in the world at this point to just go jump down there. And then there's some confusion. It's like...
Also, the fact is, cops aren't trained as lifeguards.
Agree.
They're just not. It's as simple as that, right? I wouldn't know how to save someone in that situation because they just don't train me to do it.
And you have your equipment on? Are you going to jump in with it? Are you going to strip it off? You know how hard it is to swim with clothes? I was in the Army. I had to get water trained. And... that's tricky too. Go swim with boots. Go swim. It's not easy.
Let's see. Maybe there's more here. Let's not prejudge it. Maybe there's more. The 3 police officers were initially responding to a call in the area about an alleged fight between Brickings and his companion, per the city's statement. As the officers were reportedly running both individuals' names in the database, Brickings climbed over the fence and entered the water.
Okay, he could get through the bars on the bridge, but I don't know that he'd want to.
But then we finally get the backstory, right? They were called for the disturbance. They get there. This guy jumps over the fence and just walks to the water, right? So it's that's kind of what led us to where we were at. And I always think the call to service is important,
Yeah, well, some sort of conflict, and they're just checking. I don't feel like these are aggressive cops. I don't feel like they were taunting him. I mean, I didn't hear the exchange. I heard, go to the pylon, get it. You can't do that, man.
It doesn't seem like these cops should have been suspended.
He jumped in the lake.
Put an administrative duty.
Trying to swim away.
So now look how far he is from now. Pickings told the police officer he was drowning in trouble in the water. The city has asked the Arizona Police Department of Public Safety and nearby Scottsdale Police to examine the Tempe police response of the drowning. The responding officers were placed on administrative leave in the meantime. The city's police union and Tempe Officers Association have defended the 3 officers in question, arguing that officers that
Bingo.
do not get training in water rescues.
Exactly. You could say, look, somebody died. There were cops involved. Put them on leave. We don't want them out there right now until we resolve this matter. We're going to take this person seriously. Somebody died.
But Eric, also, that's also good for the cops too, right?
All around.
Right?
All
just
around.
imagine if these cops were sitting there and couldn't swim. And sitting there and saying, "Oh my God, I can't look how far he swam out. I can't save him, and he died, and now people think I killed him, and all this stuff." So you take a couple of days off, So it's a good thing for the cops too. So them being on administrative leave, I don't think is a bad thing.
No, probably the right decision as long as it's paid. I mean, if it's punitive, like without pay, and they can't pay the rent, I mean, then that's not cool now. Yeah. But a paid leave, and I'm going to assume that it is. I could be wrong, but there's
leave
a
is
union.
Generally paid leave. Administrative leave is just for us was. You get to stay home, and it's not charged to your time off. It's charged to the city. It's almost a free day off. So that's what administrative leave is, and it's generally not punitive either. But if they, if they're doing the investigation and found you were to be bad or whatever, they could take your vacation days and things of that nature. So,
right, then you would try to recoup whatever you lost upon the termination, and fair enough.
yeah,
You should.
yeah. But I don't think, from what I'm seeing, it doesn't seem like these officers did anything wrong. Let's watch this to the end and see what happens. They do not have the necessary equipment to help drowning people. That's true. Attempting such a high-risk rescue could easily result in the death of the person in the water and the officer who could be pulled down by the struggling adult.
Exactly what I said.
That's exactly what you said earlier, right? Exactly what you said. So administrative leave, I understand it for the officers, but these officers shouldn't be. From my perspective, they should be.
Yeah. I'm from Tucson, and there was one thing, if I recall, we had, and it was interesting. But in Arizona, every time you have a heavy rain, we had what are called washes. And they're called, I believe, arroyos in some other places. But it's literally like a dry, small riverbed. And it's dry. Like there's nothing there, right? It's just dry as a bone. Except in a rain. And when it rains, the arroyos or washes fill up with rapid water. And I mean wickedly rapid water that's sandy. And sandy water is almost like a fist that's just like punching down, right? Now, in Arizona, we get that every summer. Monsoon season, you get the rains and you get the washes to flow. We always have people who will drive across the wash. Now, if it's only a few inches deep, you're probably fine driving. But it's hard to tell because, again, it's dark water. And how deep is that wash? Unless you live there, do you know how deep it is? Do you know if some water, if it's been washed away, anything's down? Well, almost every year you get a vehicle, it gets hammered by it, it gets trapped out there, and then you have a lot of people who die. They came up with what they call colloquially the stupid motorist law. And essentially, if you go crossing a wash in the middle of a storm and they have to rescue your ass, you are paying for emergency services and everything else to rescue you. Now, this is maybe a weird comparison, but I do see a parallel here that you are not to be jumping in the lake. You're not allowed to be jumping in the lake. Do not jump in the lake. If you do jump in the lake, caveat emptor.
I think one of the fascinating parts of this story is how this YouTube channel is trying to make the narrative about these police officers. Arizona police officers allegedly refuse to save a drowning man. This makes it seem like they could have saved him, or they had the ability to save him. But it's not that they refused. They just didn't know how because they weren't trained to do so. That's essentially what this comes down to. Also,
Nate, wasn't there a Supreme Court case where it was determined that you do not have an affirmative right to police service?
Yes. I forget the name of the case, but there was a woman who had a temporary restraining order against her husband. It was a domestic violence case, surprisingly. A woman, she had a TRO against her husband. No, actually, I think she had a full restraining order against her husband. It doesn't matter. And the husband had planned to come beat her up and said that he was coming, so she had called the police. She told them, hey, listen, I have this restraining order. The police never came. Then she went to the police station. She showed them they were it just whatever happened where they didn't enforce the restraining order. He still was doing his thing, and they didn't arrest him and do the bad guy violated the restraining order. So he eventually beat her up and he injured her. So she sued the city saying, I had a restraining order and the police were supposed to enforce this restraining order, and they didn't. They refused to enforce it in a couple of situations. So Justice Scalia, writing for the court, said that you because of scarce resources, you don't have a right to police protection, right? That's a privilege the state offers you, but you don't have a right for the police to protect you. Now, some states have laws that says police have to help you and stuff for that privilege, but as a right, as a constitutional right, you do not have a right to be saved by the police.
So, technically speaking, could this fall under that umbrella?
That's exactly what this falls under.
Okay.
If they see him drowning in there and they say, well, we're not doing anything, unless a state
they
law
threw him in.
Like yeah, unless they threw him in, obviously that's a whole different story. But let's say if he's in there, if like for here, the question would be, you could take reasonable steps, right? So if there's a shootout and I'm in law enforcement, I don't have my firearm, it's unreasonable for me to go in there and say, stop, police, that's unreasonable. So as long as it's reasonable for you to take reasonable measures to either effectuate an arrest or stop it. But that's state law. Federally, that's not happening. So I'm assuming
we don't even know if they know how to swim.
Yeah, I'm assuming most states have that. And one thing also too with police forces is that you don't do what you're not trained to do. So if I'm not trained to do water rescue, I don't do water rescue. Even if the person is drowning, because for two things. Number one, there's an insurance issue with me doing something that I'm not trained to do, because the first thing I'll be like is like he was doing something he wasn't trained to do. So he may not be insured, right? That's a big issue in some places. Number two is you could go in there and kill the person because you don't know what you're doing, right? You can go in there and drown the person.
Then they could charge you.
Then they could, because then they'll say, what the hell are you out there doing water rescue for, right? So there's a balance here. So at this point in time, if somebody does jump in, you got to do what you possibly can do, but you can only do what you've been authorized to do by your department and which is based on. So if they want people to start doing water rescues, they'll usually put people out there trained in water rescues in that location. But since they didn't, then these cops, there's really, again, it's like cops and fires, right? If you can stop, if a fire is going on, they can stop it, they would, but generally they don't have the equipment to stop a fire. So who do the cops call when there's a big fire?
A firefighter.
Exactly.
But you know what, Nate? It doesn't matter what we think.
No, I was going to let me end the video. It's like 2 seconds left or whatever. Just see if they got anything else. Officers are trained to call the fire department or get the Tempe police, the police boat. The Tempe police boat.
That is what the officers did here.
That is what the officers did here. So now we know the officers did what they were trained to do, right? They literally did what they were trained to do. Water rescue, call the fire department on a boat. That's what they did. This guy jumped on his own. This thing about them refusing to help him is not being generous to the best, because that's assuming those cops knew how to perform a water rescue, which most, if I'm going to say it, if not all cops don't know how to, or not trained to do.
Especially in Tempe, for God's sake. That's what I'm trying to say. You're talking about desert cops here. You're not talking about Coast Guard people. This is, now where I live, a lot of cops probably do get a lot of water training because we have, we're a coastal town.
That's a different story.
But that's the middle of the desert, dude. You don't really think about that. Now they do have a Tempe boat, so they do have some specialists out there, but it's not that. And by the way, I'm not trying to downplay. It's an incredibly sad story. That absolute meaningless death, or needless death, not meaningless, but needless death. Because, I mean, that is somebody he cared for a dog. It looks like, at least, and I mean, he had people who cared about him somewhere, somehow, and it's a horrible tragedy.
And unfortunately, it's one of those things where when somebody dies, this is what I like to put. It's lawful but awful. Every time somebody dies, it doesn't mean it's somebody's fault, right? And unfortunately, this guy seemed to have a crisis. My heart goes out to him and his family, But at the end of the day, it's not the cop's fault. This guy made some bad choices, and sometimes bad choices, it is what it is. And sometimes it's hard to hear, but it's just the truth.
Nate, it doesn't matter what we think. What do you think? I mean, I'm seriously, because I don't want to sound cold-blooded, and I know Nate doesn't want to either. Do you think we're being fair? Do you think cops are being fair? Do you think this is an unfortunate circumstance like we do? Or is there more that could be done? I mean, maybe we missed something. I don't know. What do you think, Nate?
My question was, would you charge or suspend the cops? Did these cops do anything wrong? That's essentially the bottom line question we're asking you. Let us know in the comments.